Okay, perfect. So thank you everyone for joining. We're really excited to bring this topic on board. It's 2026, so why not learn about where we are with technology and how to apply it for your business, right? So here with us today, let me introduce myself for those who don't know me. My name is Laura Geftos. I am the Program and Events Director with the Michigan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So my job is really to bring these resources to you, right? Based on the needs of our business leaders and business owners. We listen to you, we hear you, and then we bring great partners like David Rice over to bring this informational webinar to us. So thank you so much for joining. If you don't know about the Michigan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, I really recommend that you start following us on social media. Go onto our website, sign up for our newsletter. This is just one of very many resources that the Chamber has for you. We host webinars, in-person workshops, great networking events led by my wonderful colleague, Patricia Nava. So if you have any questions about the chamber, please reach out to us. We'll make sure to leave our information in the chat, and I'll have you all introduce yourself as well, if you don't mind, because I have great coworkers here that are with me today. Pati, Andrea, Iratni, and Mark, do you mind just introducing yourself real quickly?
Of course, Laura. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. My name is Patricia Nava. I am the Business Development and Communications Director for MHCC. Work very close to Laura in providing these resources for members. So I'm very happy and excited to hear from David. So anything that you need get to know more the chamber, please contact me. I'm going to leave it in the chat, my information, and looking forward to hear from all of you.
Who is next? I will be next. So, thanks everyone. I am Erandia Redondo. I am the Bilingual Program Manager for Adelante Michigan. Adelante Michigan is a free program to support Hispanic small business. So, if you have a business or do you know someone that has a business and needs assistance, please refer out to me. And also, I will leave my contact details on the chat. Welcome.
I can go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Puebla. I am the newest member of the chamber. I will be working with Erandi with the Adelante program. And welcome.
Así es, bienvenidos a todos. Welcome, everyone. My name is Mark Moreno, and I'm the Executive Director of the MHCC, benefiting from my colleagues and all their great work that they're doing. Welcome, David, and all of you for joining us. Excited to hear from you this morning.
Thank you, everyone. So as you can see, you have great resources here. So don't be shy. Reach out to us if you have more questions about what those are. So now I want to introduce our great presenter, David Rice. He is the CEO of Lucidway. Lucidway is a company that is designed all about how to apply AI to your business, right? Making it more simple, specializing in those growing businesses, and really simplifying that process, right? So I'm going to go ahead and let him share, and he'll speak a little bit more about his business. But with no further ado, let's learn how to go from manual to automated with David.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Laura, for the introduction. As you know, my name is David Rice. Hey, everyone, really appreciate you taking the time to be here. What I want to do today is make this very practical. So there's a lot of conversation around AI right now, tools, features, new platforms. But I feel as though most business owners I talk to are really asking a simpler question about, where does this actually fit my business and where would I actually use it for? So you'll see the title here, from manual to automated, and that's really what this session is about. So, taking some work that's currently being done manually in your business and figuring out how that can be handled more efficiently through automation. And I'll show you what's actually working and then what this looks like inside a business, especially to save time and costs. And then a real example of how a workflow can be automated so you can start to see where you could actually apply this in your own operations. Okay. So about me, you'll see here that, this is focused on helping businesses automate work and improve efficiency. So that's really been the focus of my career. I've spent years in supply chain and operations mainly, working on large transformational projects and initiatives that have saved millions in costs and, abundance of process and time savings. But, what that really means is, looking at how work actually gets done inside a business, how things or finding where things break down and improving those processes. Um, Let me give you a simple example. You have a process that technically works, but it takes too long. It relies on quite a bit of manual steps. It creates delays, and no one questions it. It's just because that's how things are done. But when you break it down, you realize, there's a better way to do it. So that's why I'm working with small to mid-sized businesses to apply AI in practical ways. And it's also personal for me. I grew up watching my mom, my uncle build and scale one of the largest minority-owned, not just Latino, IT businesses in the country, starting in Detroit. So, that first got me passionate in tech and supporting businesses in general, but also let me see what it takes to grow a business and adapt and stay competitive, especially over time. So right now, I do believe we're at one of those moments again. This is a bigger version of when businesses had to adopt the internet, for example. The ones that figured it out early gained a massive advantage, and the ones that waited really struggled to catch up or get traction. So to close that out for this slide, what I saw is that most businesses know AI is important, but they don't know how to actually apply it. And that's why I started Lucidway, to bridge that gap and make AI actionable and have a real impact operationally. Okay, so here's what we're gonna cover today. First, we're gonna go over how AI actually works in the business setting, including where it's useful and where it's not. And then we'll go into real business use cases. And then I'll show you a live demo of one of those real business use cases, specifically an automated workflow or process. And then we'll talk about how to prep your business for AI. Then I'll walk through what the next step looks like if you want to apply this in your business. So this is about the gist of what we're doing. Of course, this will also lead into how to implement this into your business and then a Q&A session. But more importantly, I do want you to lead this session with one clear opportunity in your business and really think about it. One process where you think that could be done using AI or be automated. So as we go through the session, I just want you to think about, as we go through each of these examples, how this can apply to your business. Okay. So why this matters now. So I'll say this highlights something that's, occurring right now and not years from now, not in the future. A lot of businesses are still relying very heavily on manual processes, like data entry, reporting, admin work. You can name quite a bit in terms of processes and tasks. But at the same time, other businesses are starting to replace hours of that work with automation and AI resources. So what's happening right now is that, a gap is forming. And I'll give you, a quick example. So if something takes 5 to 10 minutes per task, let's say some sort of administrative task, and you're doing it hundreds of times per month, that's dozens of hours being spent on something that could be streamlined, could be automated. And what that means is obviously more time back to you and your team, and then, more time on high value activities, such as, working on sales for increasing your revenue or making larger decisions on your strategy or for leadership. It's obviously staying competitive with other businesses in your industry, and much, much more that, that creates more of an abundance of time for. So I'll close this out by saying, obviously, like I alluded to on the last slide, this is not a future shift. This is happening right now, and businesses are already taking advantage of AI and using it to get past their competition. Okay, so how to think about AI. Now, really, this is how I want you to think about AI correctly. You'll see here, it's not just about the tools. That can get pretty complex when you really think about all the tools that are out there nowadays, besides the ones that you know about. There's always new tools coming out, new news. So, to really get it straightforward, it's really about how AI fits into your processes and your workflows. So, for example, AI can do quite a bit of tasks, right? It can write and analyze, summarize, and trigger actions, but the real value comes from applying it to repetitive work and administrative work. So let's think about, let's say your business. If you really think about, what tasks you're doing and what tasks are being performed, what tasks happen frequently, I guess potentially follow the same steps, don't require much creativity, or just take an abundance of time that is just administrative. That's where the opportunity is. And, as I said, to remain competitive, you should know how to use and leverage AI to do this. Okay. So this is all about better prompting. We want to get more practical on how to use AI, and we'll be starting with the fundamentals. So using prompts intelligently and using large language models, which is a type of AI tool, such as Claude and ChatGPT. So this is really where, we look more practical on how prompting comes in. And, if we start with that, right, it's a very fundamental way to get to know AI and then get a little bit deeper from there. So if we get more into the prompting space, the quality of AI output depends on how clearly you communicate. So these are the three simple things to remember. So this would be defining the role, right? Could be a CFO, could be a marketing director, could be any number of things that you want the subject matter expert on, depending on what you're prompting. So that's a good way to, when you're asking, let's say, ChatGPT a question, you start with that. So define the role. Then you would define the task, and be specific about the outcome you want, such as drafting a concise executive summary. And then one of the third things to remember is defining the format. So tell AI how you want it, how you want it delivered. I think a very good way to look at points, especially a good amount of information, is, for example, bullet points. So then you can really drill down on, what's next steps and what information do you need to get. So the more context you really give, the better result. And one simple tip I'll shout out as well is, you can have AI ask clarifying questions before responding. So you can even ask at the end of your prompt, ask clarifying questions if needed. And that can really build up the prompt and give you a better output or result. So I mean, obviously this takes quite a bit of, experimentation and making sure that you get this right. But, this isn't about becoming an expert in prompting. It's really about understanding that clear input leads to better business outcomes and outputs. Okay. So for this example, I want to go over a little bit deeper into prompting and how this might work. So for this example, we're going to see this from the perspective of a service business owner, right? Let's say the service business is HVAC, landscaping, or grooming, whatever you want to think about in your head. We'll call this guy Alex just for the sake of the example. So Alex gives a vague prompt, as you can see, and then attaches a spreadsheet with financials to ChatGPT and asks basically review this and tell me how to grow sales. And as you can see, the results are pretty vague. Focus on marketing, improve customer service, reduce costs, increase efficiency. And why did it fail, right? You don't have any context about the business. You don't have any clear goal or time frame. You're not prioritizing anything. And then obviously the prompt itself is generic. So obviously this leaves Alex with, you still don't know what to do. You don't know how to take this and be actionable with it. And there's no measurable outcome in how this could grow sales, which is, the basis of what he wanted to use it for. So that's an example of a vague, or I guess I would say, less advanced prompt. But if we go to the next slide, we can go to the strategic prompt. So now Alex learns what we learned to create a structured prompt, for example, right? So now he gives the role, like we talked about, the task and the format. So for this example, right, the role would be an advisor helping the owner of a residential HVAC company, much more specific. And then the task, analyze this data. And obviously he's providing a spreadsheet. He's giving much more information on, the numbers and how many technicians he has. And then he has the format that he wants it in. So first of all, he highlights which things are his top pain points, and then a clear executive summary with action steps. So that really follows, it goes above and beyond, of course, but it follows the main gist of how to give a good prompt. So it always helps to give additional context and information. So obviously, it includes context about his business, clear objectives, and a time frame. So this is where AI becomes much more useful in the business setting. And this is just the prompt. So if we go to the next slide, we can see the result. So you can see now the output from Alex's strategic prompt is completely different. And you can even drill down on this and ask, obviously, ChatGPT or Claude, for example, how to do each of these. But, obviously with the result that he got from that prompt, he's getting specific opportunities. He's getting clear issues noted, obviously even actionable next steps, and even projected impact on, how that could actually help his business with the numbers he provided and the data and all of the context that he provided. So this is really the difference between using AI casually and then using it strategically. Obviously, it can become useful in a business context as well. So while we keep going through this and we think about prompting, we get a little bit deeper into automation. I want you to think about how maybe you could use this for some of the tasks that you already do in your business or your day-to-day in terms of prompting. Okay. So now we have configured AI. So AI configure for your business. I'll get a little bit deeper into this so it's understandable. So of course I mentioned general prompting and how to do that, especially better. But now I want to mention the shift from one-off prompting to AI configured specifically for your business or for specific topics. Now, a common thing you might see on one of these tools is a custom GPT or a Claude project, for example. You might have heard that term before, which is what I'm referring to in this slide. So what these configurations do, they're within these tools such as ChatGPT or Claude. What these configurations do is understand your processes, expectations, and all of your context. So obviously, instead of every employee using AI differently, you can share this configuration or, for example, custom GPT and get consistent, repeatable results across your whole team. And this can be used across many different use cases, industries, and topics. And like I said, for the example of ChatGPT, you can explore it there on the paid version within custom GPTs, where there's a whole marketplace of GPTs with custom instructions and knowledge spanning, from sales and marketing to even CEO coaching. I mean, there's even outside of work, right? You could use a custom GPT for Mexico City travel if you wanted to know more about, what are some of the biggest attractions that a local would recommend. These are things that are already configured that you can just type into, and it's already subject matter expert on this topic. So obviously, a lot of businesses use this for, first of all, their administrative in terms of, let's say, human resources or legal. If you have general questions that has to do with a company's human resources, maybe even their PTO policy, that's something you can input and it'll understand right away. So a lot of consistent results come as a result. Okay. So you can see a few of the most popular AI tools here. Though I'm sure you could all mention more. I'm sure you've all heard of many different ones that are very popular still. These are tools that all take your prompting and transform them into powerful outputs that you can use for your business, your personal life. So you don't need to master any AI tool. I'll make that. I mean, you don't need to master every AI tool. So I'll make that clear. Each of them has their strengths. So for ChatGPT, they specialize really more for general tasks. For Claude, it can be a little bit better for deeper analysis and coding. Perplexity is very good for research, especially for providing sources as well. And then Gemini is very good for working within Google Workflows and Google Workspace, especially if you're trying to optimize and you use Gmail or your Google Drive to maximize your AI knowledge on this. But, obviously, like I said, the key is not the tool or being an expert in each of them. It's really about how you apply it. Okay. So, we've been talking a lot about prompting, at the fundamentals. Obviously now we want to get more specific outside of the fundamental prompting and more familiar tools you already have knowledge on or you've heard of, right? So these are the areas where businesses are already using AI. So to shout out a few of these right here, it would be communication and content. it would be operations and internal processes, sales and customer handling, research and decision support, and then automation and admin work, and then at an advanced level, AI assistance. So these are all areas where time is currently being spent manually with a lot of businesses, but where AI and automation can really impact savings and efficiency right now. So, I guess to get you thinking, how many of you are still doing these manually? And, really think about it and, come back perhaps in the Q&A with, um, what can be handled within your processes as you think about what you do on the day-to-day. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. All right, so we saw the overview of areas where AI can save time and costs in a business. But, for these next few slides, including this one, I want to dive even deeper into these to understand, how these work. So, and this is obviously outside of the general prompting and showing how businesses are using AI to, really help their processes and help, many different avenues of their business. So this one example is an AI voice agent, and this helps with inbound call handling and lead capture. So what an AI voice agent can do is answer common questions instantly. It can book appointments for you, capture information, and especially from the caller and details, and then update your system, whether you have a CRM or some sort of other system to track all of your customers, and then escalate when needed. So it can transfer, let's say, more complex issues to your team with full context. And what I want to call out is obviously, with what a lot of businesses are handling right now, right? There's a lot of volume of inbound calls, especially let's say for service business, that many are left unanswered. Obviously, that means less revenue opportunities, and you're missing revenue on the table more or less. And obviously, there's not always going to be support at all hours of the day. If someone, a client of mine that is working on a global operations for automobile parts may get calls from Europe during their nighttime. So, not everyone can pick up the phone at those times. So this is where an AI voice agent can really come into play and, help benefit the business. So what we've seen from that client's results, for example, are 30 to 50% faster response to calls. Obviously 24/7 availability, and you don't need to staff additional people. Significantly fewer missed opportunities. And then your team gets to work on more revenue generating work rather than, taking a ton of these inbound calls. And obviously, like I said, it can take the ones that, are the most common, and then your team can handle the ones that are more complex. Okay. So another big one is lead capture and follow-up. A lot of businesses lose revenue simply because they respond too slowly. So let's say, a lead comes in, there's no response or a delayed response. Quite a bit of times that opportunity is gone. So with automation, every lead gets an instant response. 24/7. And then qualifying questions are asked based on your business criteria. So if it's a qualified lead right away. Follow-ups are handled automatically, and then books, meetings, or calls automatically. And then everything is tracked. So you can log and update everything in your systems or CRMs. So what that means is obviously faster response times, which is better conversion rates, more qualified meetings with clients that, want to do the business with you. And then, you're not missing any leads, which then turns into, obviously more opportunities to gain revenue from your existing flow. So this obviously helps the whole team in terms of, reduced manual follow-up with, and doing that administrative task of continuing to follow up, even if, the bandwidth may be stretched. Okay. So another big one is reporting. I mean, a very major opportunity, and this can be fixed with real-time business dashboards and even AI performance summaries. So I'll describe a little bit more about that. So, obviously right now, most businesses, not using AI as effectively or, at all are pulling data manually and building reports manually and, kind of looking backwards in time when they pull these reports, right? They're not getting real-time data, and they're building them manually, taking hours each week whenever, let's say, leadership wants the reporting to look at important KPIs or metrics that they want to see. So, and then obviously that trickles down to leadership. They can't make decisions on time with, getting all the reporting, and taking all that time to do that. So what the solution would be is with automation, data is pulled in real time. So it would be a centralized dashboard. So something you'd see on your computer that, data is pulled real time automatically out of your systems. And it displays, the KPIs, the biggest KPIs that you want to see, and performance metrics as well. And this is updated, at any cadence you want. It can be, every hour in terms of where you're actually tracking for your business. And that gives you, single up-to-date view of your business. And then what AI can also do is take what data the dashboard is showing you and has an automated AI summary that basically summarizes all the insights that are from the dashboard and can even be sent straight to your inbox first thing in the morning. So it can highlight, let's say, key changes and issues, go over, okay, these are the KPIs you want to see. But let's say a KPI might be revenue or profit or downtime for a manufacturing plant. So there's a lot of different KPIs you could track. So then leadership can get that right to their inbox, and then they can make the decisions they need to make later in the day. So obviously for the team, that means no more manual reporting in terms of pulling that information. You get better and real-time visibility to your data, and you can make better decision making when it comes to leadership. Okay. So this is also one of the most common use cases, invoice processing. And I think this affects a lot of businesses across the board. So right now, typically how it goes, right? I mean, for the example of this, invoices come in. Someone might tape that and enter it. Well, they have to review it, and then they have to take it and enter all the data manually into their accounting system. Let's say it's QuickBooks. They have to create the vendor, put in all of the data and information they need, and then time is spent tracking and correcting errors if needed. And obviously, doing all of that, those manual steps add up quickly. It could be 5 to 10 minutes per invoice. Obviously, if you increase that to, let's say, I mean, several invoices per day, that's going to be, hours of work per week just on invoice processing that someone's doing administratively. So with automation, and I'll show you this in the next slide, is basically the AI powered workflow would detect the invoice automatically from the email. It would extract the data that you need automatically, and then it would automatically enter it into the system and then process it much faster. So obviously that supports the tracking and the follow-up workflows. And then, obviously that means invoices are processed same day or right away even instead of days later. From what I've seen from people that I've worked with, it's 80 to 90% reduction in manual entry, as long as the invoices come in as typical. And then there's obviously faster approvals in terms of getting through this entire process quickly. And then, this is where businesses start saving a lot of time consistently, for example. So I want to show you what this exactly looks like. So I want to show you a live demo here. So this would be a real workflow using a tool called N8N. It's an AI and automation tool. But, like I said with this, it's going to be looking at those manual steps I just showed on the previous slide, in terms of processing an invoice, and then we'll show how it's being automated. So I'll go ahead and share my other screen to show this. Okay. All right, so if we start here, you can see that in terms of your invoices, right? You typically get them right to your email, for example. So you can see the invoice came in through the email, just about 30 minutes ago. And you can see that, receive the invoice, you can see the PDF. So let's say we look at this, and then we can see the invoice coming from Lucid Waste Solutions. And obviously this is a sample invoice. I wanted to show this as part of the demo, but it's billing to the Atlas Manufacturing Group. And it looks like a typical invoice, right? It has a due date, the data was processed, and then the services. So each line item that's a specific amount of money for the work, and then you can see the total for the entire invoice. So that's where this starts. So typical invoice, and now we go to N8N. Now, like I said, this is an AI and automation tool that can build quite a bit of different AI workflows and automations that really automate your manual processes. But I don't want to get too deep into how this specifically works. This would be more or less working on the back end. You honestly wouldn't even see it in your business. You would just see the end result as a part of the invoice coming in. And this is something that, a company like mine can help set up for you. This is something you can learn, but it may take some time to do that, of course. So typically this would be working on an automated fashion. This would be running in the background. It would already take the invoice and, put it into the accounting system. But for the purpose of this demo, I wanted to show you, how it's executed manually so you can see how the process works. So if I execute the workflow, you can see it's grabbing the vendors within QuickBooks, which is the accounting system I'm using. OpenAI is the one that's taking all the data out and extracting it. And then it's creating a bill within QuickBooks. And then within Gmail, it's adding a processed label. So it's going to say processed on the email itself to know not to touch it. And then from there, it just goes back to QuickBooks and you should see it there. So before I go into QuickBooks and show you the end result, I'll go back to the inbox. And if I refresh it, it gives that processed label here. So now you know that if you or your team are looking at it, you can see, okay, this has already been processed by the automation, so you don't have to worry about it. And then if I go to QuickBooks, and I will refresh real quick. And I want you to know this is a testing environment or a sandbox company, since I didn't want to show my actual QuickBooks, so I do not owe $3,400. This is a fake business just for the case of this demo. So if I go to my bills, I can find Lucid Waste Solutions that was just inputted here. So I can press on that, and you can see it was entered automatically for the total of 7,000. And basically, you can press on the bill, and you can see how AI just automatically put in all of the amounts and line items that we needed. So instead of someone manually having to do this within 10 minutes of taking it and manually entering it, you can see that it did it within less than 10 seconds. Now, all you need to do, as part of the team is, okay, make sure it all looks good here. And then if it's good, schedule online payment if you want to pay your vendor right away. So obviously this is much less time on the team and, much less time in general throughout the week for you to focus on, real revenue generating work, more high value work for you to start looking at. So that's what I wanted to show you here in terms of the demo. And I'll go back and share my deck. Okay. So another thing to mention before I leave this is that Gmail is being used, but I mean, it can be used with many other sites such as Outlook or Zoho Mail. And the tool can be different for QuickBooks. You don't have to use just QuickBooks. So, AI or automation can take on many different platforms or tools, and just automate the whole process. So, obviously you saw this as a relevant use case, but you can also use this type of automation for many other different use cases, such as extracting data from purchase orders, sending out invoices even, and retrieving data, let's say, from documents, such as with RFPs. All right, so let's get into the next slide. So we talked about, different use cases of AI for a business, and I hope you found some tidbits to be valuable, of course. But, I'm going to be coming with potentially a hot take for someone trying to promote AI within my industry. A large number of businesses, in my opinion, are not ready yet to begin implementing and using AI for their operations, especially with those larger scale automations. I truly believe before implementing AI, there's a few things that matter most and need to be prepped to ensure your business is set up for success. So that includes the things here. So that's understanding your current processes, evaluating your systems and data, identifying high impact opportunities, and then building the right foundation. So businesses that do this well get the most value from AI in general. And knowing your business is one of the biggest key things you can do to really implement this successfully. Okay. So this is where an AI audit comes in, and I want to talk a little bit more about that. So during a typical AI audit session, for example, a business like mine would map out your workflows or processes, identify opportunities, and then estimate the impact. So obviously after the fact, you would get a clear plan, specific use cases you can use in your business, and then next steps. And then from there, if you decide, let's say, to go, with my services and move forward, you can move into implementation and start creating, measurable results that you can get with AI and automation. So, my company, Lucidway, as you know, is offering a limited number of free AI audit sessions just for this audience. And you can either visit the website or scan the QR code. I'm sure it'll be provided after the call as well, to schedule this. And, I want to obviously bring you value and bring you more visibility to your business's opportunities and where I can help bring value. So this is about it for that.
Thank you, David. Thank you. So that was a lot of information to take in, especially as like a rookie in the AI world. But thank you for showing that example because that really made it clear like the AI is applied to current platforms that you're using, right? It's not instead of, it's like working alongside of it. And the how, I think, is a big question. Like it all seems great and magical and but us I think the biggest holdback is like the how, right? The trusting in the how. How is this happening? So thank you for showing that real life example. That was very helpful. And I think we have a more clear understanding of what Lucid Way does, right? This is the how is where you come in, right? It's like the biggest answer is you come in, you show people how to use it, you probably recommend platforms if they're ready to have it, but making it clear your business needs to be ready for that next step. So thank you so much, David. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and we just have a couple of comments and core questions in the chat. So Mark Moreno put on here for the example for the lead captures, right? When we were receiving RFPs or leads and like the quick responses, are these solutions available through custom GBT as shared or some other special tool?
Yeah, so typically with something like lead capture, I mean, there's two ways you could go about it. Of course, with something like an LLM like ChatGPT or Claude, you can do quite a bit of the lead capture in terms of, prepping emails or even summaries or qualifications of setting that up. But a lot of the action still needs to be done by, yourself in terms of automation. So typically, if you want to do the lead capture well and do it, quicker, you would want to make it more of an automation that, let's say a company like mine would help build. So then you can, have that process automated and take it and basically get the output that you need, for, obviously taking those leads, responding to them right away, and then qualifying them and getting them on a call. So, I mean, that's the main result. Of course, like I said, you could use ChatGPT, for example, to, get your emails ready and do that much quicker. But, you still have to do quite a bit of the work to do that. But it's still a good tool, especially if you want to work on that at a fundamental level.
Thank you, David.
Sure.
Thank you. And then this leads into the next comment in the chat from Alejandra Isgro. And she is actually at bookkeeping. So she, less of a question, more of a comment. When you were obviously it was an example that you showed us, but she is just letting you all know that she provides services as far as bookkeeping to make sure all of your expenses are well categorized. Because if it not, it could lead to avoidable expenses, which you don't want for your business. So she put in a plug for herself in there. So thank you so much, Alejandra. She put her phone number and website on here as well. So Irandi is now asking another question. For example, using Copilot as an organization will be useful as a team because it came along with Office 365. So that's an example of programs that are already available to you. As I always mention, also, you may not know that you're already using AI because a lot of these platforms that you use implement it already, right? When I came onto the Zoom call for the first time, in a while, I saw a little link on there that said use AI for note taking or something like that. And so they're implementing AI with current platforms already. And like I mentioned, David is a great resource as to like the how, right? When you want to get that, if set up a meeting with him and see, okay, is my business ready? Or really, how can I answer these RFPs? Or the invoicing is really where I need help in, or anything like that. He is there for the how, right? So is there any other questions? I'm going to go ahead and stop recording at this moment here, just in case anybody wants to ask any questions offline. So for those watching through the recording, thank you so much for joining us. And make sure to contact us with any questions.